The views and opinions expressed by the Loft Party Podcast panel participants and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Good Times with Good People company, the host, or its sponsors.
Just not getting it.
Welcome everybody out there in podcast land. The Good Times with Good People company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Now that you've received your invitation, the best way to let us know that you're in attendance is to download the party or become official by joining us on Facebook, subscribing on YouTube, iTunes Podcasts, or Google Play Podcasts. Good. Thanks for joining us. Grab a cocktail, light a cigar, or whatever you like to smoke. Share us with your friends, and make yourself at home. I'm your host and moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel.
Hey out there in podcast land, I'm your host, Rio, and welcome to the Loft Party Podcast, episode 72, and the water keeps rising. From the tide of discontent among the citizens to the rising waters in the Texas Gulf, it keeps getting deep in here. But before we get into anything, let me introduce today's panel. First, my returning champion, Chris O'Connor. He's the owner of Liquid 9 Entertainment and Investments, as well as having interest in Regal Whiskey and Office Works. I've got Big Dave Elliott, the owner of C&P Construction. Got Adrian Lewis, was in management in the manufacturing sector. And now, give me the name of your vlog that you've been doing.
Yeah, I'm starting an 501c3 organization called Path to Vision. It's actually an organization that actually ties in young adults to travel, business, and soft skills opportunities.
Very nice. Yeah, he blessed me with a link to the vlog that he's been doing, and it's actually really nice content. So for any of you guys out there, we'll be letting you know when Adrian's ready for the public to see what he's got to offer. But I'm telling you, you're gonna like it. And of course, the anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name.
Come on, give it up, anonymous female, one of these days.
Half the time when you guys have been drinking, you say it. If people are paying attention, they've heard it.
I don't drink. I'm a good boy.
But before we get into important things, let's get into important things. So, what are we drinking? And our bartender, Ben, was not able to stick around today. He had some other things he needed to do. But he did give me the recipe and everything. So let me get that out so I can tell you exactly what we're having. And today we're having the DAPPER Sipper. And that is the 1 ounce Rieger whiskey. 1 ounce of Genepi d'Alps. Next time he is here, I'm going to have to ask him what in the hell that is. And 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. You stir it over ice in a mixing glass. You strain into a double old-fashioned glass with a large ice cube. You float that over 2 ounces of Prosecco on top, and you garnish with an orange peel. Refreshing and delicious. And Dave?
I want to give a shout out, while we're on our drinking subject, to Mark Church and Mr.
Yes.
Kenny Kurz, who have opened up the Monarch in Kansas City, which is, we went there Friday night for a charity event for Children's Mercy Hospital here in Kansas City. And that is one classy joint. Well, Kenny's running that Parlor Black in there. It's all done in black. Mirrors on the ceiling.
Main bar is all white, and the
parlor is all black.
And the parlor is all black. It's a gorgeous venue.
It is really cool. We had fun. The only criticism I got is they got little tiny cocktail tables, so when you're having your small plates, it's kind of hard to get the drinks in the small plates and eat without
Inside, around the bar.
A total mess. Now, if you're eating
We
at
went
the
a
bar,
couple
you're all
times.
right. If you're eating in the parlor, you're all right. But on the little tables, it was difficult.
And outside.
There's
father is the investor there, putting the money, and he is a world-class architect.
Manica, Mr. Manica.
Yeah, David Manica. And so I would imagine that it is to the hilt.
Oh, it is. The outdoor space is
They
wonderful.
really, it's kind of funny the things that you don't think about, but maybe we all would, because like everything in the main room is white, and the inside of the lampshades are gold, like they're gold velvet looking, and that matches their gold silverware.
Gold flatware.
I mean, he did
The
Reliance
gold on
Stadium
the-
in Houston. He did Wembley Stadium. I mean,
Oh, wow.
he's an amazing architect.
Yeah, it's,
So he's the owner.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
put up the money, and they're obviously putting up the
They're
skills.
yeah, they're the management.
Right.
I would say it's the classiest place in Kansas City as far as avant-garde place.
I think it is now. I think we lost a lot
Similar to
of.
Rieger, probably.
What's
Rieger
that?
and Manifesto. It's probably close to that.
I don't know about the
We hang out
Rieger.
with the beautiful people every once in a
Taking
while.
money out of my bucket, Dave.
It's kind of funny though too, because you know they said that it was an upscale cocktail lounge. You know,
It's
They're
more
gonna-
what
But you
it is.
still-
It's more of a
but
cocktail
you
lounge
still-
than it is the food.
you
Oh,
still well yeah, it's definitely just small things,
definitely
unless you
about-
would like to have the caviar and beluga
Honestly, I
vodka.
think it's really smart on their part.
Yeah, no, they did no. So well, we can get into that later,
Yeah.
but we didn't let Mario finish on the what
The
we're
spring
smoking.
lobster roll with the white space.
The
Pretty good hash.
thing you couldn't pronounce.
Oh, yes.
It's an herbal liqueur.
Ah,
It's
okay.
either French or Italian,
Yeah,
depending on the spelling.
the Genevieve de Alps, yes.
If it comes from Colorado, you know what kind of herb it is.
Okay, so that is what we're drinking, and what we are smoking today is the Henry Clay Stock Cut Toro. And with the cool thing about this particular cigar is it's actually kind of a rustic looking cigar. The way the wrapper is wrapped, it doesn't look as, I guess, as clean as most cigars would look, but that was kind of purposeful to how they wanted the look and finish of the cigar to be. But all of the tobacco leaves are aged at least 5 to 6 years. So your wrapper, your wrapper is kind of a vintage 7-year. The fillers are part Dominican, part Nicaraguan, and those are 6 and 7 years aged, and of course that is box pressed and very rich, very full, very nice cigar. One of the top 25 of you. And you know what? I didn't get a price on this one this time. I don't think we generally care up here at the Cigar Club. But if you're out there and you're looking and you want to try it, it is the Henry Clay Stock Cut Toro, and it is good. So that is what we're drinking, and that is what we're smoking. And so now we're going to move on to this week's RIPs. And we didn't have any celebrities pass, at least not that I saw since Jerry Lewis but I did
Dick
want,
Gregory.
yeah, Jerry Lewis and Dick
both
Gregory
of them
passed.
need to be
Yeah,
remembered.
but we definitely talked about them on the last show. But I did want to send a prayer out to everybody in Houston and in the Texas Gulf area, going through everything with hurricane, now tropical storm Harvey, because 30 inches of rain already. Before it's all over, they're saying 50 inches of rain.
Crazy.
That's
No recovery.
that's difficult at best to recover.
You know,
from.
I lived down in that area for a long time, down the Beaumont, Houston area. It's all so low down there. There's just not a lot of elevation to it at all. It's always going to be prone to flooding because, you know, the Hobbit comes right up into Houston, and that's where the refineries are there too.
Well,
In
they
fact,
said
if you
it's-
remember,
yeah.
there was a huge explosion at a refinery in Galveston back in the 50s. That killed-
No, we don't remember that.
killed a whole bunch. All right, anonymous female, don't call me, why don't you just call me old and get it over. But
That's about a couple decades before my time.
But they, right now, from what I've been hearing, I've been kind of checking on things. They got a lot of the FEMA trailers, in the area.
Yeah.
They got in the area a couple of days even before this thing hit and started staging.
Yeah,
So
they thought,
they have it going on this time. Now it ain't going to be easy, and there'll be people to get upset. Everybody's mad at the Houston mayor because, like Nagy down in New Orleans, he didn't tell them to get out.
well, they mentioned that this morning on the news, and they said,
He didn't think enough people could
we're
get out.
getting into stuff we need to talk about later, aren't we?
But anyway.
Yes, but
But anyway, it's just keep them in our prayers because it is, anytime you face a natural disaster like that, it's just overwhelming. You lose everything.
absolutely.
And you got to put your chin into the wind and go get it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's going to cycle back around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's already headed back out to sea, and then it's
Then
supposed
it's
to come
come
back
back.
again.
And get into Orleans
Which
and
is
get into
where-
Louisiana,
Yeah.
which they are preparing now for Louisiana.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
It's a mess. Like I said, I lived down that territory for a long time. I know all that stuff.
So we are sending our prayers out to everybody in that area, from the Loft Party crew to you. Stay safe, stay dry. And with that, we'll be right back.
Hey, you can search for the Loft Party Podcast on iTunes Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, and on our Good Times with Good People YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, and if you like the content we provide, donate to us on Patreon. www.patreon.com/Loft Party Podcast. You can find all of our links below. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
And we are back. But before we get too deep, let's play a quick party game. So, give everybody a second to think about this. So, recite at least one line from your favorite favorite war movie or TV show. And if you can, who said it and what was that character's name?
I'm gonna bow out of this because I don't really like war movies, so I couldn't tell you any lines from them, or I could probably tell you some lines from them, but none that I particularly like.
But I know you know at least one because we talked about it.
What?
You had me looking up the character's name.
I don't
about it.
remember.
Okay.
I don't
It'll
remember.
come to
Was
you.
that when I was half asleep? Probably.
No, you were awake for that one. You were awake for that one. So I will start with, let's see, everybody's got their thinking faces on. I'll start with Big Dave.
It's got to be only one thing for me. It's got to be Rooster Cogburn. Now, I'm not sure if it's a Rooster Cogburn or True Grit.
Okay.
When he says, "Not bad for a one-eyed fat man."
That was True Grit.
That's him.
was
I'm a
True
one-eyed fat man.
That was True Grit.
I've always related to him.
I was about to say.
That's funny.
Well, I was just about to say, I put it down as a war movie. I'll actually take a quote from a movie, period. If you can give me the name of the character and who played that character. So.
Now that was kind of a war, That was a bad group that went in and raped and pillaged everything.
Yeah.
And Katharine Hepburn, Miss Goodnight hooked up with him, and much to his chagrin, and he had to go out and get the bad guys with her in tow.
In tow, yeah.
So that's war.
What do you think, Chris?
So, in terms of lines from war movies, so I have two things. I want to make it real quick. I have always had my favorite movie quote of all time. But for war movies, I don't know any great quotes. I just know the part I liked the least, which I thought Saving Private Ryan was an amazing movie, with the exception that they started and ended with old Matt Damon going to the cemetery, and I hated that. I thought it ruined the movie. I wish they had just started, and it would have been so much more impactful just to start the movie with that door coming down.
And then end it.
Nobody needs old Matt Damon.
I have never seen that whole movie.
I thought that truly ruined the movie. I thought it was just too ham-handed.
Yeah, because you're right. If they'd have just started with the door falling down,
that would have been stunning. It would have been the best opening scene of any movie.
Ever.
But my favorite movie quote has always been from Jimmy Stewart in the movie Harvey, which is a ridiculous movie. It's just dumb about an invisible rabbit. But he does say the best line I've ever heard in it when he says, "In this world you can be oh so smart or oh so pleasant. For years I was smart, I recommend pleasant." Which I always thought was a great line.
It is a great line.
Pretty good line.
It's a great line. Adrian?
I have to say, technically, it's more of it's just a battle movie.
Yeah, I'm going to say, it doesn't have to be a war movie.
Gladiator.
Ah, yes.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained?
I'll kill them. Now what?
Russell Crowe Gladiator?
Yeah.
That's when he picked up the phone and threw it at the
Yep. I don't remember what movie that was. Whatever one we were talking about.
So any movie.
No, I don't know.
You don't know any movie lines.
No.
We watch movies all the time. You don't know any movie lines.
No.
Okay. All right.
The one I quoted
Not
online.
even a girly movie?
Oh God, no.
Come on, man. You gotta give us something from a girly movie.
I don't.
Nobody
Sleepless
puts baby
in
in the
Seattle.
corner.
You, please.
Well, dude, how
That was
about,
my favorite movie line ever.
how about the orgasm scene with Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal? You
That
could do
would
that.
not be one of my favorite movie scenes. No.
Okay, so.
But you tell me you can't do that?
So I'll throw you a softball.
Okay.
I'll throw you a softball.
Well, I was gonna say I can tell you the one that I said on the thing because it was. I'm assuming where you got
Orgasm
this.
is a full line.
Yeah.
What movie was I asking you
I
about?
think
Tell me
you
that.
already know. You know which one because you were about to say it.
No, I don't think I was because on mine I quoted "There's no crying in baseball." That's not a.
It's not a war movie. That's what I said. It doesn't have to be a war movie.
It took place during the war.
Yeah, it is true.
Yes, it did. That is true.
This is true. This is true.
What movie did I ask you about?
A Few Good Men.
Oh. Yes. I've been wanting to see that.
You can't handle the truth.
Good movie.
No, we quoted the "You need me there, you want me there." Blah, blah, blah.
You need me on that wall.
Yeah.
You want me on that wall.
What you got, Rio?
You know, the funny thing is, when I was thinking about this, I didn't have any like great like war quotes, but it was always like I remember like "Good Morning Vietnam." Good morning Vietnam.
Who said there's nothing like the smell of napalm in the morning or
That
whatever?
was
It's Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, but who said
I love the smell of napalm
in the
it?
morning.
Who said it though?
I was going to say
It's been a
that.
long time since I've seen that
Either
movie.
Martin Sheen or Marlon Brando.
And you,
I think that was
like
Martin
Full
Sheen.
Metal
Yeah.
Jacket,
I think that was Martin Sheen.
and he says
I think
Full
Marlon
Metal
said that,
Jacket.
I think so too.
I think Marlon Brando said that.
Yeah.
It was a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah.
What I said.
He was.
No, I say I don't have
Was it
a
Full Metal Jacket that he always called him numbnuts in it? I think it was.
I think that was Full
That guy that always plays a
Yeah,
general of
he's
some
very-
sort. And
He is so good.
I wish I could remember some quotes from Pat.
I was trying to think of a Patton quote too.
I knew because he had some great.
I could probably
great
quote
quotes
some
on there.
from Platoon too, and I hate all of those movies. I've never seen Saving Private Ryan all the way through.
Oh my God.
Probably my favorite.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't do
So good except for the start of the end.
war
Yeah.
and death on that level. Like,
Yeah, probably my favorite quote from
that's
a
not
war
a bad
movie
trait.
is probably
You are the
But to be
nurturer,
but
and you
yes,
cannot do that.
But Mario, how many girly movies compared to other movies do we watch?
we generally
Like
don't watch
I
that
get
many girly
really
movies. We really don't,
annoyed
actually.
at girly movies. Like I just want to reach into the TV and slap the crap out of whoever, whatever
You gotta
goes
sit
on.
around watching rom-coms all day.
All day.
I hate that. No.
Actually, I think
Does he like me? I wonder.
probably my favorite, I guess, war movie quote, which technically wasn't really a war movie, but it happened during a war, is "Frankly, my dear." I don't give a damn.
I could probably
Mark
quote
David.
the ones from like Pearl Harbor, you know. Of course,
Oh.
it's a touching scene, but you know.
Yeah.
But it's two men talking, not a guy and a girl.
So with that, we'll be right back.
Hey out there in podcast land, we would not be doing our duty if we didn't acknowledge the sponsors of the Loft Party Podcast, the Majestic Restaurant and Jazz Club, and the Majestic's Pendergast Club. The Majestic carries on Kansas City's tradition of great food and jazz. Let them show you why they are the classic Kansas City steakhouse experience. 931 Broadway, just 3 blocks from the Kansas City Convention Center. J. Rieger and Company, a Kansas City distillery. Whether whiskey, gin, or vodka, neat or on the rocks, J. Rieger, Kansas City, sipping good since 1887. C&P Construction, Kansas City's premier wood framers. 50 years of quality framing and craftsmanship. Just email david.cnpservice@gmail.com and start building something new today. And our friend and frequent guest, Lane Boland. Thank you all for all that you do. Time to rejoin the conversation.
Okay, and we are back. And okay, here we go. Party politics. We've kind of been talking on and off during the break, but I definitely want to start with Hurricane Harvey and everything that the Texans are kind of going through right now. We were talking earlier. I know we saw on the news, and Dave mentioned the Cajun Navy, coming out and saving people with their little boats and everything that they just personally have, which
It's called P-rolls.
which I've found to be really heartwarming. To seeing
It's always nice when you see communities caring about each other, and people that live a few blocks from each other that don't even
know each other.
And we were talking about people being upset that the mayor didn't evacuate, or they didn't call for an evacuation of Houston, but they said, was it 2,000?
2 million.
No, was it 2015? A few years ago when they had, a couple of years, or it might have been last year.
That was Allison.
When they had the hurricane and they evacuated, and 24 people were killed in interstate backup.
in the traffic jams.
And so he was unapologetic about not, and he said, and to be quite honest, people would have laughed at me if I would have told them to evacuate. They just don't do it.
It's a tough
They
call.
don't-
That's a
It
very
is.
tough call.
But the federal government, the state government, governor gave plenty of people fair warning.
Well,
The National Weather Service.
They did. They
gave
did.
people
And the
plenty of
thing
fair
is,
warning. They had days' notice of
if
this
they,
was
well,
coming.
and in Houston, if you know that your city is prone to flooding, and there's flooding all around you, why would you stay?
Well, yeah, it's ridiculous to think you need the mayor to come out and tell you to leave. I mean, you knew it was coming for a week.
Yeah.
At any point in there, you could have just made your own intelligent decision and gotten out of there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't diminish what they're going through.
No, it doesn't by any means.
Yeah, there's a flip side to this, which is oftentimes what does happen is people leave and bail, and then their houses get robbed and looted, and all their shit's taken, and all that other stuff.
I think
I'm
was
fairly
that
sure
was
the
the
people
concern
that,
this time.
In Texas,
the police department in
yeah.
Houston admit, they said we're doing everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. But quite frankly,
What can we do?
I mean, people's houses are literally halfway filled with water.
Yeah.
What are you going to take? It's going to be worth anything.
The thing about it is if you leave ahead of time,
Yeah.
and before it starts, raining and all that kind of
And
stuff,
they
people just go and wipe you out. I saw it happen all the time in
Yeah.
Florida. All the time.
They interviewed a family who, for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, their house is high enough that it didn't get any flooding whatsoever. but it never has. But this time it made it to their front step.
Wow.
It didn't go in their house. But they had all of their neighbors, they have like 20 people ranging from ages of 7 to 96 in their house right now.
Oh my God.
So it was just really like,
Well, I'm similar to Dave. I mean, I lived and worked in that area for a long time, and it is not the place you want to be for an event like this. It is just low level. You are right there. There's no place for that rain to go.
well, and
it's going to sit there.
yeah, and
it's
you've
really
got
sad.
sewer, you've got the factories there, you've got
Refineries.
the swamps
Fertilizer
that are
plants.
now, all of the animals that live in the swamps are now in neighborhoods. And,
Gators like to get up where it's dry.
yeah, well, they were
Well,
talking
that was
about
the
that
thing.
on the
Like
news
the
this
gators
morning.
gators are trying to find high land.
And,
so
and
that's,
snakes, and I
Yeah.
mean, just they're just trying to live. Yeah, and
I
I
don't want to
mean,
be in a storm either.
I only lived down that area for about 3 years before I went on down to Louisiana. And about not even that, I was only there about a year and a half. And been through just heavy thunderstorm range, not tropical storms that flooded everything.
Yeah.
Because down there, the steering mechanisms to move storms out aren't that strong. So a lot of times these storms pop up, they can just be a heavy thunderstorm, they don't move.
well, and it wasn't. It was earlier this. Was it earlier this summer or was it last year when everybody was so concerned about the hurricane that was supposed to hit, and it literally, like, before it hit land, it moved off and turned. So
Well, that was last year because that's when they hit Jacksonville and took out all of our dunes down at the beach and everything.
You just
Where my house
never
is.
know.
It never quite got us. It stayed just out
Yeah.
enough to where it did damage, but like my house didn't
I
have
feel
hardly
like
any damage at all.
You err on the side of caution and you leave, but to a certain extent, like we were talking about the family that literally had an infant, like you can't even save yourself.
Sure.
How are you going to save yourself? And like that's a hard decision to make. If there's a choice, you're like,
With a kid, it's a little different, especially a newborn kid and all that kind of stuff. But it's weird. Like living in a city like Houston, I would have not left. I would have stayed. If I was in Corpus Christi, I would have gotten the hell out of there real fast.
Yeah.
And if
Well,
you're
it
right
was
on the
Port-
water,
what was the
you're
city
getting
that
out. But if you think you're far enough inland in Houston to think,
Houston's
I'm just gonna
flooded
get a
every
ton of
time.
rain.
It floods every year.
They said that
New Orleans
Houston,
floods
yeah.
every year.
But you don't really think you're going to be in the end of a hurricane in Houston.
No, and they
flooding.
said it was within 2 hours. The lady that they were talking to, she was like, literally, we did not have time to move because she said it was raining and then all of a sudden, and she said it wasn't pouring, like it wasn't hurricane rain. It was like all of a sudden there was 2 feet of water.
It's a little disingenuous in the sense that you knew for a week it was coming.
Yes, but
So, yeah,
she's
you didn't have
saying
time
the
to
rain
start
that they
raining.
got wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's going to be flooding any second. And then next thing you know, and they had like,
Welcome to a hurricane.
All I gotta
What
say,
do you think happens in a hurricane?
I sat in the bar of my apartment complex in New Orleans over in Algiers and watched a Cadillac float down my street one day.
yeah, it was just bizarre stuff. That
And,
like
you
boats
know,
in the middle of the road where water. had,
And it was not a tropical storm. It was just a big wicked thunderstorm that sat over New Orleans for a while. And
Well, and
next thing
they
you know,
are.
the Cadillac's floating down the street.
Not only do they have the hurricane, but they also have tornadoes. So that,
yeah.
and I mean, they've already had a few of them. So I feel for it. It's just a horrible situation.
I
to be
understand the
in.
decision, honestly. The only ones who drive me nuts are the ones who try to drive through it. Like, how many times do you have to be told not to drive through what's basically a river at that point?
Well, and you can't tell how deep. You really, truly can't tell
You know-
how
you
deep the
don't
water
do it.
is.
You know,
I mean,
you know
like
what they
that
call a
happens.
hill down there, don't you? An overpass. That's a hill down there.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true.
it was just crazy. Like there was no place for they were talking about Houston is the perfect example of urban sprawl. They were showing pictures of just a couple years ago that it was forest and now it's developed, and they're like, you know, there's no place for the water to go anymore.
It just piles.
Yeah.
No source.
And there were, I mean, huge chunks of the road that was just caved in because there was a creek or something underneath it, and it just, I mean, water is a very destructive force, you know?
Oh my God, probably the strongest force in all of nature.
It is.
Still,
It is.
Just ask the Grand Canyon how water went for that.
Oh, yeah.
Went pretty well. So, you know, it just happens.
Yeah.
Give water enough time.
So I was looking, and I didn't want to get too deep back into last week's topic, talking about the Charlottesville protest, but I did notice that there were a couple of similar rallies set for the Bay Area that were both canceled because they just, you know, it was funny. I saw on, and I can't remember what show it was, but I saw a joke and they were saying, you know, yeah, they did this kind of, you know, rally in the South, you know, try to do that shit in Oakland and see what happens. and apparently they tried to do that shit in Oakland, and it did not. It did not even get the opportunity to happen because they knew it was going to end very badly for a lot of people, and in fact,
Not a smart move.
two. Yeah, so that was
I mean, just
so.
going to an Oakland football game is better.
Yeah, I mean,
going to like a
you realize-
rally.
Here's part of my problem. You know, y'all know that I would have no way I would, you know, say the Nazi rallies or the white supremacist rallies have any merit at all. But they still had Antifa there, and they still started doing damage, and they still started doing crap, and they still got arrested. And there was nothing even there to protest anymore. They still wanted to be there just to raise hell. Now, I really feel that there's an injustice being done here. Everybody's going against the alt-right like they should. There's a violent alt-left, and some of the left people that, you know, newscasts that I've been catching or radio shows that I've been catching are starting to speak out against them. These kids are out of control. They got to be careful because, yes, it's good to counter protest. But if you become just like the people you're protesting, then where are you? On the opposite end of the scale, but it's the same shit.
I see your logic. I don't know if I agree, but I definitely see, you know, the old saying, two wrongs don't make a right. You know, and I definitely agree with that. You know, that
They
two
claim
wrongs.
to be anarchists. I mean, they got the big A they painted on the walls and a big red A. They claim to be anarchists. This has nothing. They are not Americans. This group has nothing, in my opinion, no more to do with America than what these crazy bastards over here are on the other side.
But I think you're having a hard time with guidance in this part. So you're having an extreme one way. So a group of young ones who probably doesn't have a whole lot of guidance, or maybe leadership, or even a solid foundation of how to go about protesting the counter side, and it's going to become extreme both ways. So you're having the effect of one group coming in and saying, hey, this is what we believe, and it's very extreme, it's very, what we consider radical. So the other group considers themselves, they have to be just as radical.
They're just almost as extreme.
I have no problem seeing a bunch of racists get their ass kicked. I'm completely fine with that. That's the right way to handle the situation to me. I'm A-okay with it, and I hope it happens more. And until they just stop doing these stupid racist rallies. And then I'm great with it.
One thing that we have to, I think we need to clarify from last week when we were talking about the statue that was being taken down here.
Well, they took it down.
But one thing that we didn't talk about was it was actually the group that put it up was the group that asked for it to be taken down because it was vandalized and they didn't want any more.
Is there really still looking for daughters?
Yeah,
out there?
it is.
How
Yeah.
could you be a part of that at this point?
How are you part of a KKK? I mean, you know, there's.
So this is
But
just
anyway,
not
wait. But that was the group that asked for it to be taken down, and I don't know that was fully reported on. So people did get upset about it. But it was that group that asked for it to be removed, and because they didn't want any more damage to it, and they were going to take it and put it away until they could find a safe place for it. So,
Is it trash can
to be clear from last week, we were talking about that it wasn't right to do that. The vandalism isn't right, but it wasn't any it wasn't a leftist group that asked for it to be removed.
I didn't feel like that. I just still feel that there's soldiers from the Confederate and the Union buried there.
Yeah, I believe
And I
that there
want to
should
see
be some
something
marker.
else
Yeah.
come there. You cannot ignore that these people sacrificed their lives
Yeah.
That's not
for a cause that they thought was right, be it right or be it
But
wrong.
it was only Confederate.
That's my problem.
It wasn't an acknowledgement that there were both sides buried there. It was
Right.
only,
I
and
agree.
you know, I think that we were talking about it and we didn't have the full context of what we were talking about, at least on the podcast. So I just wanted to make sure that we.
And that's a legit point, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that they did ask for it to be taken down. I thought one of the coolest things that happened recently was when I guess a great grandson or nephew of Robert E. Lee went on stage at the MTV Music Awards with the woman who just lost her daughter in the Charlottesville riot, and I thought that was really cool. I mean, I think there's an acknowledgement, like even most of Robert E. Lee's living relatives come out and say, take this shit down. You know, put it wherever you want. We don't really care. You know, it's already said and done. You know, get rid of it. And I am great with that. Like, why would you have something that does nothing but incite violence to a large majority of the population?
I mean,
Well,
replacing the statues, like you say, with something that acknowledge that there was a battle there, acknowledges that
Don't erase the history.
that lives were lost there.
Don't erase the history.
Yeah,
Listen, there's plaques all over town. Go to Lewis Park,
Yeah,
you know, where the actual battle was fought. There's plaques all over the place that acknowledge that there was
That's
a
a
battle there.
burial. That's a burial ground.
I understand, so just give it its proper context. Say this
Exactly.
is a burial ground. Don't make it a Confederate memorial. That's wrong.
Well, and that's my issue. It's not erasing the fact that something, you know, happened here, but the fact that it's purely a Confederate memorial, I think, is what is bothersome about it.
It's offensive.
Well, and
Yeah,
we were talking
it is.
about Charlottesville, and just, you know, before the podcast, we were talking about that Vice episode, which I highly recommend you watch because it was very interesting to see. She was actually interviewing and spent most of her time with the neo-Nazi group. So it was just shocking to me, and maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe I'm just, I don't know. I wasn't exposed to a lot of that in my lifetime, but yeah, it was very like,
Have you ever?
it makes me sick to think people can really think the way that they think.
But have you ever listened to like some of the podcasts that some of these crazy bastards put out?
No, because
you can tell that they my old friend in Maine, Joe Winnie, was a fisherman, lobster fisherman, and he had a great saying. He said, you know, I'm not stupid, but I might be ignorant. Well, there you go. And some of them are stupid and ignorant.
but they don't.
But ignorance is a
the-
generational thing,
If you're
unfortunately,
ignorant
for a lot of
on
these
this point, you
people,
are
and that's
stupid.
where they come from.
But the
they are
thing
ignorant.
is,
There's
if
no
you're
excuse.
that, whatever
No,
you want
I'm
to
not saying
call
there's an
it,
excuse, Chris, but I'm saying that they are ignorant, and that's why they have no excuse.
If you were smart enough to say I'm ignorant, you're smart enough to know the difference. At that point, you are stupid because you are
That's my
acknowledging
point.
the fact that
But
you're
that's
ignorant.
my point.
I mean, like, there's to me, there's not a difference between
they have-
ignorance and stupidity. They're
There's
the same
nothing
thing.
about them that are American.
nothing about who
I wouldn't
that's
say
not
that.
American.
I wouldn't say that they're not American. I would say that we're trying to embrace one piece of history. And we're saying that, okay, here's this part of history where it's very offensive to a group. And then we're saying that, okay, it's easy to say, hey, let's pull down the statue and be offended because it's Robbie Lee. But then you got a group of people that said, all right, well, Robbie Lee beat, raped, and was a savage to one group. And where's their shrine? Where's their statue that says, hey, this is where all these slaves were buried? Do we even know where 90% of the slaves that
Probably
were
not.
We don't have records on those slaves.
Well, we do know that most of them were buried on the dang plantation.
Which is bothersome to say the least.
I mean, okay, let's take away slavery. Let's talk about Native Americans. Okay, what happened to all those that were poisoned and shot? On the day of Thanksgiving,
or marched from Florida down to Oklahoma.
Right, and now they're in the northern Midwest of the Dakotas, and that's their prairie.
Yeah, I think
and now they're still fighting for it.
Yeah, I think that the idea of the genteel South is something that people want. They want to believe it so badly.
But it's not just the South. Like, they interview people that live in, what was that one group that they weren't even in the South. They were like in, I don't know, California or some craziness. Like someplace you wouldn't think about. They're everywhere.
It's not cars from Toledo.
Maybe that's where it started, but it's all over the entire United States.
I'll process that too. Even if you just exclude race from the entire argument and just take it out of the equation, you're still putting up memorials and monuments to people who were traitors to the country and wanted to secede from the Union, and they're not American at that point. You are a traitor to the country.
We were watching
I'm a Yankee, so I can't argue that
with George Stephanopoulos. We were watching that, and I can't remember who was on the panel, but it was a African American gentleman and another woman, and she was obviously Republican, and they were talking about just Charlottesville in general, and he brought up she tried to bait him into an argument of well, both sides do this, and he said, I'm not going to go down that road with you. What you're talking about right now is somebody that was a traitor to this country. It had he was like, it's not, he wasn't even talking about race. He was literally talking about, why do you put up memorials and statues and glorify people that were traitors to this country? And that was the argument that he was, but you just hear people talking about somebody that they really don't know and saying that they're filth and that they should be dead. And how does that even, where does that?
I don't know where it starts from. I don't know where it comes from, but this has always been the dividing line for me. I can tolerate a Washington or a Jefferson or something like that. Flaws, as horrific as they were, you can even make the argument, place and time, whatever you want to argue. I don't really care. But there was never a moment in time where you leave the country and become a traitor, where you go, that's okay, we're cool with that too. No. You guys literally try to become a separate country. Fuck off. This is still America.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were forced back into it after we kicked your ass, great. I'm not gonna give you a high five for that and put up a statue to you. I'm all in favor of vandalizing the shit, taking it down, doing whatever you need to do.
I
You can't go with the vandalism.
I absolutely can.
I think you're wrong.
It's repugnant. And
that is not. We don't need vandalism in our society. Our panel gets along because we're able to have discussions. Once you go to vandalism and you go to violence, then you've taken it out of that discussion.
Vandalism is the start of violence, though.
You're talking about violent people on one side and asking everybody else to be cool and not respond. I'm okay with the violence.
I'm not okay with it. Yes.
It's hard to be passive with.
You can't keep
such a start.
I think cities need to stop and take a look at it, and they need to make decisions in a government sense.
And if they're not going to, then vandalize it and tear the shit down.
And I think being passive was what kept them up so long.
I agree. But you got to be careful. There's a time and place to get things done, and there's a discussion to be had. and then there's action to be had after discussion.
Well,
And that's
But you're
kind of
talking about-
that's what our union end of the country and our country has always tried to do. This is what we try to bring forward.
but I think we're to the
And it's
point.
difficult sometimes, and it isn't always just, but it is the public discussion that is supposed to rule us by our government.
But it's always
but-
unjust to one particular group. When we say it's not always just,
not always.
it's because it's
Towns
always in
make-
our favor.
Towns and cities,
Towns and cities, it's always been in our favor.
How is
make
it just when you
decisions.
have a group calling people, the N-word and saying Jew shit, they're not going to take this, and then you don't expect for somebody to be offended. And so you take that and you say, okay, well, they're having their moment, they're protesting, and then people on the other side voice their opinions for years, decades, hundreds of years, whatever the case may be. And then now it's, okay, since no one's listening, nobody's taking out this flag, this statue or whatever, the Confederate flag. That was a big issue in Georgia when they changed the flag. And then that was a big protest. People putting Confederate flags on their trucks, driving down the street, screaming and yelling and big.
Well, I think part of the problem that these cities have by letting these crazy bastards have their rallies is that I think there's a law in the book that's called inciting a riot.
But the thing is,
And I don't think they have to give them a permit to protest if they're going to incite a riot.
But how do you can't say that though. That's being prejudiced against somebody by saying, okay, you're applying for this permit and I know because of who you are, you're going to incite a riot. You can't say that. They could sue the crap out of those people. I mean, and it's
Then
just, it's not.
Then I think that's a
it
good
doesn't
thing to
make
take
it,
to the courts and see what
but
happens.
now you're trampling on the First Amendment.
True.
And,
You know what?
and
Here's the thing.
that lies the problem. People know how to get around that stuff.
Here's the thing that was interesting to me. We were watching the Vice episode, and so, like I said, she was actually embedded with, several of these groups, and a couple of these groups, and it was. I applaud the young lady for even being able to actually be there and ask real kind of journalistic questions, because every other word was they were Jew communists, and they were it was
classic lines.
Yeah, it was every
All the greatest hits.
Oh, it was and God, like I saying, God bless her. She was able to continue being professional and continue asking questions, trying to get their perspective. But I do remember at one point, it was after the first initial day, she's in the hotel room with one of the guys and she's interviewing him, and they had obviously come down looking for trouble, because he pulls out. He's like, okay, so that one's ready. Click, 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 clack. AK-47.
Isn't that the dude who turned himself in finally?
I don't think so. I don't think this guy was. But he pulls out AK-47. He pulls out a 9mm from his waistband. He pulls out a Ruger 9mm from his ankle, and another gun, and a knife. And he said,
and a knife. And
a knife. And he's throwing them all over the bed, look how
and
proud he was.
Gun over here.
Yeah, and I have another AK-47 over here, and
he said,
so what I hear a lot is, the kind of protesters that came down and they were picking up sticks or whatever, and but these guys came down fully armed to the teeth. They were ready to kill people.
But that's what their groups do. They go out on the weekends, and I'm not making it up. I've read articles about it. Like, they go out on the weekends, and they are fully preparing for government taking their guns and people protesting them. Like, they're doing combat missions
But in their
on the weekends.
But in their idiotic minds, they see themselves as going to war.
Against their own government, though.
Yes.
What is that called? What is that called?
Treason. And they are treasonous. Because they are not, once again, they do not have the American ideal in any sense of the word.
But they believe they do.
But
They
that's
believe
what
that
they
the
believe, but that
American
doesn't mean
ideal.
But that doesn't mean that they
But
are
that goes
American in
back-
that sense.
But they think they are, and that's the problem. That's what makes people
99.8%
like
of the
that.
Americans out there look at those guys and say, you bunch of stupid assholes.
Listen, I would say one, treason is the only crime that's defined in the Constitution, and the penalty is death, which is A-OK by me. And then secondly, the right to free speech does not mean that you're free from consequences of being stupid. And
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, but there may be consequences.
Just what I said earlier,
I'm
right?
going to have a parade. I'm not going to deny you the permit. I'm just not going to go out of my way to put a lot of people out there to help you out. And if you get your ass kicked, you get your ass kicked.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's-
I mean,
that's
that was-
what should happen. You want to put a quick end to these stupid marches? Just get your ass kicked every time you organize a march.
Yeah, well,
Now,
And then you'll cut out the marches.
I'll have
There's
to
not that many
say,
of them compared to the people protesting. They
On
don't-
the-
There's 2,000 people showing up against 200. You're going to get your ass
They're not even
kicked.
200 sometimes. Sometimes they're only 50.
But
These guys are total morons.
I
the
agree.
other
Get your ass kicked.
thing that I wish they couldn't tell us who was doing it, but somebody was macing the neo-Nazi group.
Yeah.
But they knew that was going to happen because they had milk with them. Like they knew, like they were fully prepared for
Yeah.
whatever was going to happen. Like you don't just get a gallon of milk out of nowhere and where they were at. You know, like they had that shit.
That's not what I take on my protest.
You're right.
But I'll also say this.
They asked them who did it, and they were like, well, I don't know, communist. I'm like, what the communist? What decade are you living in?
Yeah. All right, wait,
Go ahead.
okay,
Go ahead.
we gotta move forward. We gotta move
Fair
forward
enough.
because we got a full agenda of stuff to talk about. Because as always, the week has been chock full. So Trump pardons Joe Arpaio.
You need to do all that in a
Absolute
row
boo.
because they were talking about dumping,
Absolutely.
media dump. He did it. All of these stories came out
Friday
after
afternoon.
6 o'clock on
They've
Friday.
been doing that for years, so what's new?
And so right as the hurricane's hitting, all of these stories
Yeah, exactly.
hit.
You do this at the height of what's going on right now.
I agree.
That was not.
Obama did it, Hillary did it, they all did it
No,
for
no, no,
years
no,
and years
This
and
is-
years.
this
They've
is
done
very,
the Friday
very-
dumps for years.
You are adding gas to a forest fire.
I agree.
Now,
this
so
is
why-
not a Friday dump of bad news.
Well,
which
let
has
me-
been a
let me
political
ask-
I mean, because that does happen. Friday dumps
It is-
of bad news
is.
happens.
It's what you're dumping that is the problem.
Well,
When
they
you
dump them.
agree to pardon
And doing it during a
Right
natural
now,
disaster is
two
stupid.
things. One, when it's just intense in this country just to begin with, and then to take a racist asshole 85-year-old sheriff who, come on, like that guy was the biggest asshole on the face of the earth and was found guilty in a court of law
With his
And-
peers.
Yes,
Amongst his
exactly.
Well, and the other
To pardon him then, you're a moron. You were just the dumbest person on earth. When you could have just let shit die down for a while, and then slip it in
He's never
January
been
or
known
some
for his
point.
timing.
He's an idiot. He's
Well,
an
it
idiot.
wasn't only that,
I
though.
don't
It
think he
was
was trying to be strategic.
Yeah, no, that
was.
was I interrupted you.
No.
But it wasn't just that. It was that, and then he fully signed the ban on transgenders,
Against
enlisting
every
in the
military
military.
advice.
Well, it got watered down because originally they were going to have to I'm losing my word again.
It originally.
People that are already in the military were going to have to be discharged.
Right. That was the
But
initial
now,
tweet.
but now the version that he signed they just cannot newly enlist. And they need to figure out what it's going to cost the government to support transgenders in the military, which that study's already been done. It was
Right.
done 2 years ago. And then on top of that was the, what's his name? Gorka.
Yeah.
Well,
Resign.
let's go back to the transgender issue. Because I got a question to ask, and I don't honestly know. It's been reported that if you think you're transgender and you go into the military, that they will pay for a sex change operation, a hormone.
Well, if you have insurance and your insurance covers it, then
No, but taxpayer.
Doesn't matter. It's still part of the insurance policy.
Yeah, and the study that they did.
Taxpayer.
It's still
Yes,
part of
but
the
the-
insurance
They're
program.
still with
that
the
they
subject
get.
of taxpayer and taxpayer.
It doesn't matter. It still goes through the
The
insurance
study
policy.
that they
government
did on
provides.
the number of transgender people that were in the military and the cost of a sex change and the support, because there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's not like you just go in and say, I'm going to get a sex change. Like, to do that is extensive.
Yes.
Psychological testing.
Yeah, there's all, and it's
But
not,
we shouldn't
But
make.
the thing is, it's less than 1% of the cost of the medical insurance for military. Less than 1%.
To me, this is a little bit more of a moral issue that I don't really personally have a problem with transgender serving in the military. If they can be a good soldier, more power to them. Okay, I don't have an issue with that. But I do have an issue that if it is your venue to go get changed, that is totally on your level, that you need to be able to take care of that yourself, period. And it should not
I don't
be
agree
done
with that.
while you're in the military, in my opinion. I think it should be done while you're a private citizen. That's a private thing.
Yeah.
This is
Okay,
where,
but
this is
they're
where it
going to
gets
have the same
crossing
insurance for
line.
the rest of their life. You don't change insurances after. I mean, you have VA benefits.
But I still
Medical
think it
insurance
should be
is one of
done.
them.
It could be done, yeah, you have VA benefits, but I think it should be done after you're out of the military, not while you're in the military. Because you just said, now hang on, you just said that is a tremendous thing. That's a tremendous change in your life. And so psychologically, you're going through emotions that are off the chart. And you're getting
Well,
hormone
to be
replacement.
quite honest,
So you're really having issues.
yeah, they're
doing
already,
change or
yeah.
not.
It's harder on, if you talk to anybody that's gone through it, it's harder on them to hide it and live in a way that they don't feel is authentic to themselves than it is
Well,
to,
then maybe they shouldn't have joined the military.
but you know what? They went through a psychological test to get into the military, so obviously they were okay at the time.
If insurance is covering it and it's part of their approved plan, which we all have insurance, and so you use the insurance wherever you can. It certifies some things, doesn't certify other things. If it's an approved procedure that is part of their insurance policy, they have every right to do it.
Well, and they
more
don't
than
decide
my
that.
God,
It's
I just want people to be happy.
Yeah.
There's a lot more medical
want.
testing that goes on in the military that costs us far more money, I would
Yes.
say, probably than.
Well, to me,
It does.
I understand. Once again, it's one of those. I really understand where you're coming from. I don't think I agree, but so to me, if it's really a problem, then it's not saying, "Hey, you transgender, you can't join."
Does it affect their ability to serve?
Well, not even that.
And I agree with that. I agree with that.
Not even that, because I don't think it affects their ability to serve. But if it's really a problem, to me, it's changing what insurance benefits they're able to
And they
get.
don't make that decision. The insurance company, it's what is negotiated at the time that a contract is signed. So if the military doesn't want to pay for it, then they need to take it off their approved list of
That's all they have to do.
That I agree
Yeah.
with.
You don't have to say transgender people are not welcome in the military or anything along those lines. You just go, hey, listen.
But he
we're changing the insurance
wants to
policy
roll back
not-
to not
with
cover.
the
But
But he
operation.
wants
My
to
insurance
roll back
policy
the
ain't gonna
whole
cover
don't
that.
ask, don't
I'll
tell.
promise
He
you
wants
that.
all of that.
Private citizen.
He wants to go back to you cannot be openly gay in the military, like all of that. He wants to get rid of all
I'm
of
sure
it.
he does, but he only, I mean,
That won't
I haven't
happen.
heard
That
him say
won't
that. I've just heard him
Well,
say, listen,
they
you
said
can't be
that
transgender.
what he just did wasn't going to happen, and he signed it.
All
So-
of the generals have come out and said, and this is bullshit. This
But
is
once
dumb.
he
You're
signed
taking
it, they
12,000
have to
people out of our
adhere
military who
to
are
it.
performing exceptionally well. You're breaking up units. Nobody in the Army actually has a problem with any of this. You're making an issue out of something that's not an issue.
Right,
It is a
right,
non-issue.
Well,
So
and
it's
this
just
is
silly.
There's some that do
another,
have
but this is
I'm sure
another
they probably are,
thing.
but
This is another thing that he went completely opposite of how he campaigned. Because they had on, when he was campaigning, how, they don't have anything to worry about, I don't even care about that, blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you know, it's on his radar.
You could be cleaner from MASH wearing a dress, and if you go into battle, I don't give a shit.
Hey, look.
Just be able to shoot straight and hit somebody.
Yeah.
That's all you really need to do, and I'm completely cool with that.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be
honestly,
great.
yeah. If you want to volunteer, because we have a volunteer military, so if you want to volunteer to go out there and kill or be killed, so that I don't have to, God bless you.
Imagine how difficult of a choice that is for somebody who is either a transgender or wants to have a sex change over. That's got to be.
Oh yeah.
You know you're putting yourself in an incredibly difficult situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for them to
But
still
I
have
still
the patriotism to
say,
sign up.
if you're getting it done while you're serving, that with the hormone injections and everything, you're changing your body, that's got to affect you psychologically too. So do you really know how that person's
Okay,
going to
but
react?
what
Majority of
happens-
journals I've seen have said it's not.
But I
What
don't think the
happens
I
if
think the
somebody
military-
has an illness that they have to, okay, I know it's completely different, but what if you're diagnosed with cancer while you're in the military? Do you have, I mean, that psychologically fucks people up. How do you
Most of them aren't going to
say,
be out in the battlefield if they have cancer.
but you don't know that.
Neither, I would doubt anybody going through a sex change process probably would be either.
No, most of them
think
aren't.
The Timo expect to go out on the battlefield and pack a pack.
I would think the military probably understands the magnitude of what they're going through as far as their hormones changing and whatnot, that they wouldn't put somebody on the front lines that would probably wig out and do friendly
You need
fire.
to be getting an administrative job and everything
I'll be
else.
Why
honest,
do you
I
need to
think
be-
it's-
that- I
think
don't
it's
agree with that
insulting
either.
to say that somebody who has a sex change or is transgender or anything has psychological issues. I'm not saying it's not. I would agree that it's probably a difficult choice. It's hard, and it's all those things. I'm not going to say that they're unfit to serve and that they have
I think
psychological
it's a
issues.
year. I
Well,
think
I
it's
think
a
when you have
year or
hormones,
more
you
that they have to go
The
through
mandatory
therapy.
psychological counseling.
Yeah, it's over a year that, or right at a year that they have to go through that
It's
before
not an
they're
easy
even
choice.
signed off on to have one.
It is
And then there's
such a
months
difficult
and
choice.
months and months of prep to do it before it even happens.
Yeah. And I'm
Which is
completely
my point.
unwilling to say that they're psychologically unfit.
Well, the
to
prep
serve.
isn't like,
I know people who are just, you would go,
it's
"Oh,
like
you're just a
women
straight
start
dude.
taking
You're
testosterone,
crazy."
men start, I mean, it's like, it's not, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
no, you have to build into it. It's not,
yeah.
you can't just do it
You have to
overnight.
get your body prepared for it.
Yeah, it's a brutal process.
You know, and Dave, I do understand what you're saying. I just think that it's not black and white. It's definitely not black and white. And it's not for us to say what's
It's
right or
not a
what's
time
wrong.
to do it while you're in the military. It's a time to do it after, and I will stick to that.
Well, I guess it would
100%.
depend on if
That's
you're
fine. You wanna make a change.
military, if you're.
I don't have a
So,
problem.
are we agreeing to disagree?
Yep.
At this point.
Okay. All right, so let's move forward, and you mentioned, but let's talk about Gorka resigning from the White House, and he was probably the last of the Bannonites holding a White House job, and I'm wondering how much resignation or how much kind of forced to resign this actually was.
Was Bannon the last
That's Kelly.
champion of him?
Yeah.
That's Kelly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's Kelly cleaning house and getting the ship right.
I hope so, because
That's why he was put in place.
I mean,
this is too simple. It's just he's clean. He's making it a government-run operation and dragging the president along with him. And he's going to. I guarantee you, Kelly will straighten that house out.
Is that not the saddest statement in the world? That
Well,
the chief of staff
but it
dragging
is.
the
But
president
it's a
along
true
with
statement.
him? That's,
You know.
it's horrendous.
Yeah.
It is a
That
true
You
statement.
know,
shows
you
the danger of the
had
world
a
right now.
non-bureaucratic person elected to president, and he picked who he thought was in place to do him the best because that's who got him elected. And the dawn of reality is when you get there, you find out that that's a whole different fucking ballgame. And
everybody thinks that they can be president until
he's
you become
adapted
president.
to the ballgame at least,
Yes and no.
whether you like it or not.
It was taken extremely lightly, in some cases. It's not a boardroom.
I think that
You
he
should
thought
be
he
happy
had.
that he has picked Kelly in place.
I'm glad Kelly's making changes that he sees fit. I mean, I think he's stepping in and doing some
Control.
But at this point, would you
Somebody now has
Why do you have your arms
control.
for a
crossed over
guy
there?
who was elected to be, oh my God, this great
He's ignoring
business
me.
leader, and he's gonna come in and organize all this stuff, and I want to hire him to run a hot dog stand at this point. He's just proven to be irrational, crazy, saying all kinds of dumb shit. He's not even acting like a good business person, which was he was elected on. You know, and so yeah, I hope they all go. Nobody wants to be in that White House right now. Nobody. I mean, Tillerson, we were talking earlier. Yeah. Tillerson came out yesterday and was like, I don't know what the hell the president said. He spoke for himself, not for me.
But he has put some good people in place that will say
that want to leave, that want out because they know that he's a moron.
Right
They
now,
can
he's done a
resign
good
at any
job.
time.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
They're not forced. They're
And I
not
can't
forced
remember-
to stay.
I can't remember the guy, the Jewish guy who was in his cabinet. He said, I almost resigned. I had written a letter of resignation. And I thought, you know what? I can either choose to bail on this and have no effect at all, or I can try to stay and be patriotic and do my
Just
job
the finance
for the American
guy.
country. Yeah. And try to make changes internally if I can. That's a hard decision. It's a
It
very
is.
hard decision. So it's one thing to go, well, they can just all resign.
But
No,
you-
there's a lot of people in there who feel like
But-
they're really trying to make a difference for the country and the job that they were put into.
But that becomes a personal choice that you have to make.
At some
you know?
point, you have to decide, does this guy represent anything about me or not? And I think you're seeing more and more people that are in that administration who are like, actually, he doesn't speak for me at all, and I don't want to be associated with him. And
But
that'll
they're going to
lose.
do what they have to do to do their job.
They're trying to do their job,
Yeah.
and he's fucking their job up every day.
Well, look at what he's done to Tillerson over and over and over.
Constant. Undercuts him all the time.
I'm sure that gets frustrating at some point.
Normally in leadership with people that follow you say one thing and they echo exactly what you say. There hasn't been much of an echo past 8 months from what I see.
No, there is no echo.
There's been no echo. There's been one person taking a stand, saying this is what we're going to do, and this is just the way it is, which is not necessarily the way a president necessarily appeals to the public or to both parties or to the American people. And now you're starting to see people that were supportive of him that he put in place that are now saying, look, dude, you're going too far over. Put down the tweets. Let's just focus on the government. We're divided, and if we in a divided nation who's possibly at war with another country here soon, how could you be divided inside and then have to focus on things outside? That's tough. That's a tough position to be in. So now you're having people who basically have to call mutiny and say, look, we'll put holes in this damn boat and sink this ship if you don't tighten up. And so I think they're getting his attention to get him to tighten up, in my personal opinion.
Do you feel like the country in some ways is running itself in spite of him, not because of him? Like, I see a lot of people just going to work and trying to do their jobs.
Absolutely.
And going, oh, fuck this guy, I just need to go and put my head down and do my
And I
job.
think he's being warned about an impeachment process. I think I read something before I came here a few hours ago that he's being warned by his advisors that there's some people that there's his own party is looking at getting rid of.
But the problem with that is that a lot of people in their own party are the establishment. And they've been the establishment, they've been in there 30, 40 years, some of them. That's fucking ridiculous. I know Chris thinks that they should be there. Well, that's fine. In that case, I say, well, good.
I think you should have
Elect
term
them and
limits.
give them a job, and then tell them they got to retire when they're 66 years old.
Why?
Because I don't want them in there when they're 80 effing years old, man. You should
They're
be
out of
retired.
touch with reality of
I'll
what
take
the
John
world
McCain any
is.
day. What he did was one of the bravest things I've ever seen anybody do. I love him for it, and that dude's 80 years old, and I applaud him every day for it.
Yeah.
Poor Dave.
you know, it's funny,
I can't agree with that.
Dave's over
think
here with
they
his
get
arms
corrupted.
crossed.
They are part of the machine, and the machine has been failing the American public for a while now.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I will say that
I agree with that.
I will
agree
agree
with
with that. But how this administration wants to change the machine is not the way to change the machine.
Well, it's an unorthodox approach.
It's a dictatorship.
But,
It's not gonna
but the
happen.
machine has not been serving the people, and that's where my main issue is.
You know,
I
So
don't
many of these people that
necessarily-
need to F and go.
I don't think it's necessarily bad. Like the whole reason originally that people wanted Trump in there was because he was a businessman. He wasn't a politician. I don't disagree that maybe a businessman would be good to run the country. I don't think this businessman is
I
the
thought
right
Mitt
one.
Romney was a good one because he was Mormon, none of the moron Republicans would elect him.
But we were focused on
Well,
the
he
economics.
ran, Romney ran for, I mean, he was their candidate.
And he would have been a much better president than Trump.
But he ran against somebody that was already seated in office.
Yep.
And you know how he was
I mean,
running
the
against
two are
somebody, he was running against somebody not only in their second term, but
I mean, he was running against
down
a,
to Houston.
Yeah.
he was running against a
It was
force of
wrong
nature.
timing
It
for
wasn't,
him.
it just wasn't gonna happen for him.
yeah, it was wrong timing for him.
Yeah, I think that the American people, we were focused on the economy. We wanted our economy to be strong, and he looked like a good person to strengthen the economy. That could be
It is
more
better
related.
so far.
What, Trump?
So far.
But when you start talking about race relations, you start talking about globalization, war, all these things, he has no experience in. And it gets pretty scary. Now you got this race relation issue that's turned into an internal war. I mean, and he doesn't know what to do. He's not saying the right things to even kind of put the fire out.
I'm totally bothered by that. I don't, it's beyond me why we reversed course.
So we got Tillerson saying, "Hey, we're gonna."
What do you mean
we're
reverse
fighting for-"
course?
Well, we've seen a lot of good things happen in race, where people are getting educated and more equal in jobs, and seeing different things happen in the world that makes things more equal and better. Even just, women in business and things, not just blacks and whites and Latinos and everybody else.
The 6%.
And now I feel like for some reason we're stepping back, and I find this very just frustrating to me, because I've always been a champion of trying to work, and you guys know, work in inner cities and help kids out and things like this, and I'm struggling with this mightily. This is a very disturbing thing to me.
But that's a reflection.
Because
Well, you know what's funny? I'm
think
glad
we
you
can
said
go
that.
forward
Give
a
me
lot
one.
better than
Yeah, give me 1 second, because it's funny. This entire I don't know if anybody out there in podcast land has seen the movie. I hope you have. Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
And there's a line in that movie that it's
my favorite.
You see,
Even before that.
it struck me. It struck me because it was a line that I had heard before in life, but that line out of that movie has stuck with me in 100 different situations. Attitude reflects leadership, and we're seeing, to your point, the country move in a direction that nobody rationally wants it to go, but we're seeing our leader espouse these opinions, and when you see the guy at the top, say, the president of our country isn't born here. You see somebody trying to be the leader saying, hey, this woman did these crazy things, lock her up. Or when you see, somebody trying to be the leader of our country say, hey, if this was 40 years ago, we'd have knocked them on their ass and dragged them out of here. Well, then the populace's attitude reflects leadership. And now that he's in office, we're seeing that, the white supremacist and neo-Nazi groups, are coming out.
Trying to be more vocal.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, when we were talking about this Vice episode, we saw the young lady say, it's not that the white supremacist groups think that he's one of them, but they feel that they now have an ally in the White House that is not going to, put them in any peril or any litigious, peril for the things that they're doing or saying. And that, of course, emboldens these groups. Yeah. And so they feel like now we can come off of the internet, where for a while there were these kind of dark internet groups and just these kind of, memes and trolls on the internet, that now we can amass in the public.
In a physical space.
And show people our faces.
I think there's a second point behind this, is that in our media nowadays, they love it. They got something that they go stupid on. And they're
it's not even...
and they push it and propagate it. They push it and they propagate it, and they want to make it sensational because it becomes a story. And there could be 2 of them up there and 2,000 over here, and they'll take those 2, which isn't the case, don't get me wrong, and they'll boom, blow it up and make it this huge deal when it's just 2 fucking assholes over here and a bunch of counter protesters saying you guys are 2 fucking assholes.
But you can take Charlottesville as a perfect example of the media had nothing to do with that. Like, it hit social media before the media got a hold of it, and it went firestorm from there. It wasn't media that caused that.
Well, I'm not saying they cause it. Don't get me misunderstand me here.
Okay.
They don't cause it at all, but they blow it up.
Well, this goes back to the conversations that we've had.
They are not out there to cause these things.
Yeah.
They're out there to capitalize on what happens.
Well, that goes back to us having the conversation about the 24-hour news cycle. You have to report on something.
Yep.
So they're just, and if they don't have something to report on,
Bingo.
They keep talking about the same thing over and over again.
I don't think it should go out 6 hours a day, but that would be restricting First Amendment rights, and we'd be in trouble, wouldn't we?
I mean, but it's sad because the TV stations play what people want to watch, and for whatever reason, sadistically, people love to watch this shit.
Yeah,
it's like it's true reality TV.
I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, the news comes on at 4:30. What are the first 4 news stories? Who got killed?
Yeah.
Who died in a car wreck? What cop got shot?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's all it is. This is nothing, it's shit. It's total shit. And I'm getting old, and I don't suffer fools gladly. All right? And my Italian wife don't suffer fools gladly at all. I'm surprised she suffered me when I asked her to dance back in the day. In fact, she didn't suffer me very well, but it was the start of a long relationship. I'm at a point where I'm yelling at the radio, I got stressed, and I have to turn it off every once and go back to music, which is what I should do a lot more of.
Do you meditate? You should meditate.
My medicine is this rum.
That's medicate. That's
Whatever it is,
We're talking about meditate.
You know what? Actually, you know what?
Where I am.
All right. So with that, let's move it forward to a story that I don't think anybody at the table should find overly controversial. I don't think, anyway. So, at the Georgia State Capitol, they're going to add a Martin Luther King statue that's going to join. They haven't decided to take down the Confederate statues, but they're going to add a Martin Luther King statue at the Georgia State Capitol. Which kind of
governors, or who are they?
No, I think they're war heroes, like everybody, like the rest of them. But I will say that it was one of those things that made me feel like, okay, maybe somebody's listening. Maybe we are moving in a better direction.
Well, I think we are moving in a better direction. I think that's the one thing this has done, is that we are waking up as a people and saying, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, it's funny. We've looked at a couple of things, and they were saying that every so many years you go through these kind of cycles when the collective consciousness of the country is becoming more tolerant of different things. you go through these kind of social battles that because there's always going to be somebody that's not okay with it. But and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I do think that as a general rule, the country is moving in the right direction, but it may be slow, it may be plodding, but the Titanic hit the iceberg because you just can't move a cruise liner that fast. If you're not looking for the icebergs, that's why you hit them. And and I think we're at a point in history where between social media, the fact that everybody's now a reporter because everybody has a camera, I think
they think they are.
Yeah. But I think we're looking for the icebergs, and we're trying to steer away from them. But there's always somebody that's saying, nah, just let the boat crash because, what's happening on the boat is the right thing. And there's all those people down in steerage that are saying, hell no, like we can't even go to the dining room. What the hell are you talking about? And so I do think that in that way, for as much upheaval and controversy as we're having as an American people, I still believe that Martin Luther King was absolutely right in that the arc of justice is long, but it bends toward righteousness. It bends toward justice. And
his dream is still alive and always will be.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said before, and I'll say again. I think it's probably the greatest American we've ever produced, and I want to, one as a black man, two as an American. I want to believe that we are moving toward the right direction. I think there's bumps in the road. I think there are, a-holes that, don't want it to go in that direction. There probably always will be. But I do think the amount of a-holes that don't want us to move in the right direction is getting smaller. But they are getting more vocal as they see the country as they want it to be.
Well, they're losing their power.
Well, exactly.
So anytime you start to lose your power, you're going to get more vocal because you're becoming less and less and less.
Yeah.
The squeaky wheel is supposed to get the grease. The one that cries the most is usually the one that's causing the most problem.
So, to that end, that's the reason why I've said a couple times, I see your point, but, to kind of to Chris's point, I think at a certain point, if you find that there is no safe quarter, you'll stop because there's no way to keep going if every single time you open your mouth and say something completely asinine, you're gonna get pummeled for it. And so, no, I don't want to see riots. No, I don't want to see people losing their lives or whatever.
It's okay to shout them down.
But, I'm perfectly okay with them getting shouted down. Perfectly. And with that, let's move to the last point on the list. Something much lighter. The Mayweather-McGregor fight. TKO in the 10th round. I must admit, I didn't even see this fight going 10 rounds. I know it was an exhibition, so I knew it would go more than 4 or 5 rounds. I didn't think it'd go 10. I thought if it ended early, McGregor would have him. once it gets past 5 rounds, you're just not conditioned to fight that long. You know, MMA fights don't go that long, and nobody's ever crossed over from another fighting discipline to win a boxing title. And but I will say this. I saw this as the ultimate money grab for both of them, and there was a lot of money being grabbed.
Well, McGregor made $100 million, and I think Mayweather made over $300 million. Am I correct with those numbers?
Sounds about right.
Be well. And you never know what's going to happen with these kind of things. I mean, McGregor walked away talking about, I'm a free agent. I can go both ways now. So you might have, boxing for a while has kind of been on the down trend without, the big heavyweight names anymore. So now you got these guys that can possibly cross over. So you may have boxers going into MMA, learn how to do some of that mixed martial arts.
Because you've had WWE people going into MMA.
Yep.
So I do think that the health of the sport, and I am a fight fan. I think the health of the sport is going. Honestly, I don't see the sport surviving on the financial level that it's surviving until we get some really viable heavyweight candidates. Honestly, since the Klitschko's, there hasn't been any heavyweight worth watching. Right. So
I don't even know the names of the heavyweights.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know any names of any heavyweight contenders at this point. And that's a problem, because when we were all growing up, it was all about the heavyweight division.
So this is where I would disagree slightly.
Okay.
In the sense that if you look back at a lot of the most famous boxers that are out there, it's actually the lighter weight classes that have drawn a huge number of people. Sugar Ray Leonard was never a heavyweight. De La Hoya wasn't a heavyweight. Pacquiao certainly wasn't a heavyweight.
Those
Mayweather
were
obviously
classic
wasn't.
battles.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But it's across the board.
Tommy Hearns, Hadley was in it. Like, none of
Hadley
those
got out
dudes
of
are-
prison and started beating people.
What's his name that was he a heavyweight? Oh gosh, he was in one of the Rocky movies. They
The
banned
guy
him
from
'cause
Kansas
he had
City.
Tommy Morrison? He was a heavyweight.
And can't forget about my boy, Roy Jones Jr.
Oh yeah, Roy Jones Jr.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Who was a bad boy?
Yeah, he was a bad boy.
He was a bad boy.
Yeah. So to your point, I actually do acknowledge that you are right, that a lot of the big names of the sport have been in varying weight classes, to tell you the truth. But I think the excitement of the sport.
You just like hearing heavyweight champion of the
Heavyweight
world.
champion of the world.
Oh
It's
yeah,
amazing.
and there's nothing quite like hearing that phrase.
Featherweight champion of the world just doesn't have the same
But if
weight.
you're a fight fan and you actually do enjoy the sport of boxing, typically your better fights are in the lower weight classes.
In lower weight
I
classes.
do not enjoy boxing.
Yeah,
I don't like MMA either, though, or any of that. It's
Well,
just too.
the boxing
I think,
you've always been
I think that
first
goes
side.
back to why I don't like war movies either.
Still like to see
Like
people.
Game of Thrones?
I can
still good,
do Game of
good.
Thrones is perfectly fine. There are some scenes that I don't watch though because they're super gory, but it's I get boxing is like real boxing, not just pummeling somebody. Like when it's an art, I do get
It's
that.
an art and a science. It is.
Yeah, I get that, and I can appreciate that, but I don't understand sports that you're probably going to have some kind of mental illness at the end of it.
Football?
That's football.
I mean, you're guaranteed it.
You're not guaranteed that in football.
Oh my God.
You are not guaranteed that in football.
Yes,
You're not guaranteed to
Not
get
every
boxing.
single person that goes out on that field is going to get pummeled.
What was the number that they came
Now,
out
if you're a
with?
lineman, you may be
It was
guaranteed
something
that.
like
Linebackers.
90% of people that played pro football have brain illness.
Have you
and all
seen
kind of
that
stuff.
movie,
Concussion?
Concussion?
Yeah, that's how part of it is.
I know one thing. I've always been a boxing purist. I will always be a boxing purist.
What-
MMA,
this is
and I went. I got a good friend of mine who was
Pugilist?
Sheetrock Company here in town. Was a pretty badass kickboxer back in the day. He went under the name Mongoose. He had a little rat tail on the back of him. He's my age now, and we look at each other and just laugh about it. But he just went out. He went out to the fight and hung out with Evander Holyfield. He's hung out with Evander several times. He was in Vegas for it. And
What weight class
And I
is he?
saw him today, but I haven't had. We got to go to the bar because I got to hear the stories, right? Because you hang with Evander, you having some fun.
Oh, you got some free. Yeah, you got some.
But my point being is that we went to an MMA match out in Maristar.
Yeah.
And I got to see, seeing it live was a lot more interesting to me than seeing it on TV, okay? Like most events, you see it live, it's a little more real for you. It's not boxing.
It'll be exciting to see what happens with
Just,
the two sports. Don King's out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, is
for
he?
all the brutality
Yeah.
of boxing, it still has a certain amount of grace to it.
Yeah.
Boxing's kind of a beautiful sport in some way.
I think
Because it's so
real-
ancient, I think. It's two men
Yeah.
or two women even nowadays.
Yeah.
Squaring off
I
and getting
definitely
after
don't
it.
like to see that.
And there's
but-
just a beauty to it in a way that this violent, brutal thing.
Yeah, it's
you
this
know?
dance that
I need to throw
that you
something
can only
at
get
Chris.
one way, and yeah. But with that, we'll be right back.
Hey, you having a good time? Let me introduce you to a couple of my media brothers. First, www.americathemixtape.com, a cipher on American politics, society, and culture. And where'd I get that mixtape? Of course, www.cornerbodega.us, purveyors of urban culture. Come on, let's get back to the party.
And we are back. And before we get out of here, let's talk about today's sugar honey iced tea. And for those who don't know, these are things that I or a member of the group have found that are really cool, aka the shit. This week's sugar honey iced tea is the human body. Rehab is a motherfucker. So
I'm the king of rehab, you know that.
yeah, I know. Yeah. So, knowing that at least one member of our panel has done some rehab work, and the anonymous female's father just came out of the hospital after having actually multiple surgeries. It's crazy. So, the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks after the surgeries, you know, is when they really kicked in hard with the rehab. And to see a guy who barely was, you know, getting out of bed without help to this past Sunday was in his normal pew at church. You know, that was amazing to me because, you know, the power of, you know, because in rehab you're not lifting weights or getting some crazy injections. It's just you working your own body to get back to a point of equilibrium. And that's why I said rehab is a motherfucker, because it was amazing to me to see, you know, to see him up and moving around, and maybe not ready to run any races, but like I say, back at church, you know, normally after church, you know, everybody would get together and go to lunch, and you know, and to see him kind of back in some semblance of a normal routine was kind of amazing. And so I want to give a loving shout out to the anonymous female's father, and to all of those people that work rehab for a living. You don't know how much you're really truly affecting lives past the point of you know, what the surgeons and the nurses can do for you. You know, I think a lot of people think, you know, if you didn't get a medical degree or you didn't, you know, get your, you know, your RN or whatever, that, you know, you just kind of work at the hospital. But, you know, I remember when I had a serious back issue and I had to go through rehab, and just having that person that was going to be dedicated to you, working you through your issue, you know, I don't know, honestly, physically where I would be even, you know, if I had not had that person in my life at that time. And so I just want to give a shout out to the people who work in the rehabilitation field, and say that, you know, if nobody out there is telling you that the things that you do are amazing and important,
They are.
The Loft Party crew is telling you they're amazing and they're important, and we salute you.
I'm going to have a quick shout out.
Sure.
Because yes, they are amazing. I call them physical terrorists.
True.
However, when you rehab out there in podcast land, and I've rehabbed 6 different major injuries.
6 different?
6 different major injuries. And you have to become a warrior. That's the only thing can be in your head, is that I am a warrior. And I am going to conquer. And I will not be defeated. It's a mindset. And
So
you get gear before you even go in and have your surgeries, or if you've been injured,
right.
you have your little pity party if you've been injured, and you go, okay,
Yeah.
I'm after it, don't get in my way, let's go. Conquer the pain and let's get it done.
That's
that's how you rehab.
Yeah.
If you go in with a bad mindset and poor me, pity party, you're doomed.
Out of curiosity, since you're saying you've rehabbed from 6 different injuries, if you can share with Podcast Land
Excuse me, sorry.
how much swimming you do every day.
I don't swim every day. I swim 3 to 4 times a week. Today I did 2750 meters in 58 minutes.
2750 meters.
27 meters, almost 20. Well, I think I did 28, and my watch doesn't always record it right, but I think I did 2,800 meters, which is basically 2 miles, and a little less than an hour. But this is what keeps my old body, which is beat up. I can't run. I look like a train wreck about to happen. You know, I don't need to be lifting weights because I got knee replacements and parts in all my knees, and my shoulders are gone and everything else. My wrists are broken, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I got one eye, and on and on. But you know,
You're a catch, man.
I'm a catch, you know. I've never backed off of much in my life. I tend to run out of full bore, and every once in a while, there's a consequence for running at things full bore.
Swimming is the best exercise for you anyway.
But it is tremendous in many ways, and as you get older, it's something a lot of people in podcast land should really consider, because it works on your lungs, it works on your breathing.
Don't wait till you're older.
And you get in that water and you're free. That's the best thing I can say about it. I get in that pool. Today is a bright sunny day. The water's cool because we've got an unbelievable August here in Kansas City. It's phenomenal. And it's just, I can't explain it any better. It's almost a religion in a way. And it has done me very, very well. I've been swimming for over 10 years with the Masters group. I was 260 pounds and out of shape when I got in. I jumped in the pool, knocked 2 little kids out the other end. And so, you know, they never thought I'd make it. But once again, it's kind of like a rehab. You become a warrior, you become determined, and you get it done.
All right.
That's a good attitude.
There you go. And with that, I think I'm going to end this podcast in the way I end all podcasts. And that is with the toast that started it all for me. And that is to good times with good people.